Hi, I'm Larry Richardson, your step-by-step chef. In this episode, we're going to make an absolutely delicious dish with its roots in Louisiana. Louisiana, the state where chefs and cooks go to eat. They just have the best food there. They absolutely do. And what we're going to make is red beans and rice. And this is my version of red beans and rice. Now, the funny thing about a lot of the dishes in Louisiana is every single person in the state makes it a little bit differently. Whether it's a gumbo, an etouffee, you name it, everybody makes it a little bit differently, and they're willing to argue about it too. So I don't doubt that my red beans and rice is going to spark some arguments, but it's worth it because I absolutely love this dish. So come on, let's cook. And here are the ingredients for our red beans and rice. First of all, I have 1 pound. This was 1 pound of dry kidney beans that I soaked overnight. That's pretty much necessary. You really need to soak the beans overnight. Now, I'm using kidney beans. Some people say to use small red beans. Use the dried beans that you can get, but it has to be either kidney or small red beans. That'll be fine. I'm also using 1 pound of andouille sausage, and that's a smoked sausage. If you can't get the andouille version, then you can certainly use just a smoked sausage. That'll work just fine. We have 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1 large onion, 1 green pepper, 4 cloves of garlic, 3 celery stalks, 3½ tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 bay leaves, a ½ teaspoon of black pepper, 1 tablespoon of Cajun seasonings, and you can find those in most stores, or you might have to order that online. And we're also going to use 2 tablespoons of minced fresh parsley, and then we're going to use a long grain rice, and that's what we're going to serve the rest of this on top of. So let me show you how to put this together. Okay, so just to make a point, the package of beans that you buy will tell you how to prepare them. Basically, you rinse the beans off and then you sort them. And sort them basically means pick through them and make sure there aren't any rocks. Because if there's a rock in it, your red beans and rice is going to result probably in an expensive dental bill. So make sure you pick through the beans, make sure there's no rocks, and then you're going to soak them overnight in water. And the package with the beans will tell you how to do that. But basically, this is 6 to 8 cups of water. The beans are in there, and I put it in the fridge overnight. And this is what you end up with. And you can see that the beans crack, they open up, and it just softens them down so you can work with them in the recipe. So that is the mystery of the beans. Now, the first thing we're going to deal with is the andouille. We're going to cut the andouille pretty thin, and then we're going to brown it. So I'm just taking the andouille, just cutting it into these relatively thin slices. Let me just show you. Like that thin. That's about 1/4 inch thin. We're just going to cut the whole thing down. Now this is a Cajun spiced andouille. And again, if the best you can get is a smoked sausage like this, then that's fine too. You just want one of these firmer sausages. And just about every grocery store in the country has this andouille or the smoked sausage. Now I'm not going to bore you and show you every slice of the sausage, but you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to meet you over at the stove. Okay, so this pot has been preheating over medium heat. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of oil. There we go. And then let's just put our andouille right in there, and we're going to brown it. And browning it serves 2 purposes. It's both going to help the andouille to hold together when it's mixed in with the beans and give it a little bit of crispness, which I like. But it's also going to release flavor into the oil that we're going to use when we saute our chopped vegetables, our onions, our pepper, and our celery. So let's just give this a good browning. And this will probably take about, anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. So just kind of stir it around, let it sit a little bit, let it brown, and then give it a little bit of a stir again. So I'll be back when this is browned. And 5 minutes later, these are plenty browned to my satisfaction, and they gave up some of that delicious taste to the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to put the andouille sausage in a bowl, put that in the refrigerator on hold, and then save that oil on the bottom because we're going to cook in that. We're going to cook our veggies. So now I'm going to meet you back over at the cutting board. Okay, so now we're just going to prepare our vegetables. The pepper and celery have been rinsed off, and we're just going to chop them up. And they're going to cook for a long time, so you don't have to be super precise at this. So I can just take all 3 celery stalks and just do this to it. Just saves time. We're just going to put all these vegetables in this bowl. And now we're just going to take our pepper, just cut it in half, and discard the core and the seeds. And then we're just going to take it, just cut it into these slivers. And again, a rough cut is fine. These are going to be simmering on the stove for a long time. And then we'll do the same thing to the other half. Okay, so our pepper's all ready. And then we just take our onion, cut the end off, get rid of the skin. And this is a sweet onion. You can use yellow, white. Should be just fine. Okay, oops, that last little piece. And then all I'm going to do is cut down like this, cut deep into it. And then we're going perpendicular. This just saves a lot of time. And then just cut down the face. Again, a rough cut's fine. These are going to cook down with those beans really well. So you can see we're getting these pieces of chopped onion, and we're going to do this for the entire onion. And now we're going to mince or crush our garlic. It's totally up to you. If you want to mince it, you just open it up, take the paper off of it, the skin off of it, and then just cut it into small pieces. Again, we're going to be cooking this so long that you don't have to be super precise. I have this garlic crusher, so I'm just crushing it right in to the onion, pepper, and celery mix. And that'll be fine. And you can see it just takes the skin right off of the garlic. And I'll do this for all 4 pieces, and then I'm going to meet you over at the stove. And we're back at the pot that we cooked the andouille in. Preheated this pot over medium heat. We're just going to add a little bit more vegetable oil, our other 2 tablespoons. And then we're just going to saute our veggies and garlic. And this will take about 5 minutes. When the onions and the peppers and the celery start to turn a little bit translucent, we'll know that we're ready for the next step, which is to add the beans. Now what I want you to do while this sautés, you do have to give it a stir occasionally, is take the beans and just drain off the water. Drain the water off the beans. And also open your can of tomato paste. So I'll see you in about 5 minutes. Okay, so you can see the vegetables are turning nice and translucent. So they are sauteed and ready to roll. So now what we're going to do is add our Cajun spices. our pepper. Our bay leaves. Let's give this a quick stir. Get those bay leaves nice and wet. Wow. Do not sit down and eat that in front of the TV. Don't. We got to make it through this recipe. And then we'll add our tomato paste. Let's stir that in. Let these get to know each other for about a minute, all these ingredients. Everything nice and mixed in. And then we're going to add our beans and 5 cups of water. And again, the beans have been drained. So not the water that they were soaking in. And here's our beans. Looking good. And our 5 cups of water. Now what we're going to do is put the heat up to high and bring this to a boil. Okay, so we have the beans boiling, and what I want you to do is lower it down to just under quarter heat, bring it to a quick simmer. You don't want it to boil like this for the next hour. Bring it down to a quick simmer, stir it occasionally over the next hour, and do it covered. So we're just going to keep checking in, taking the cover off, giving it a stir, and then recovering it, and that's for the next hour. So I'll see you in about an hour and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so our beans have been simmering, fast simmering, for about an hour. They're coming up on an hour. So we want to get the last of the ingredients ready. So we have our fresh parsley here, and of course you're going to use dry parsley if you have it. And we're just going to mince it. And it's going to go in some really hot bean water. So I'm not really concerned about the stems in it, so let's just give it a quick mincing. Just give it another little bit of a mince. Ooh, wow, that smells really fresh. And then I'm going to meet you over at the stove. So here we are at the stove. Now, you can see the beans have been on a pretty fast simmer for an hour. And what we're going to do is just take the spoon and mush some of the beans against the side of the pot. About a third of the beans. Just mush them, because what this does is it thickens the sauce with the starch from the beans. This is something, if you watch my how to make chili recipe, it's the same thing I do, because it just gives the sauce a nice texture. So just mush some of them up. You don't want to absolutely pulverize all of them, because it's red beans in rice, not red paste in rice. So leave some of the beans standing, and then give it a nice stir, and then just mush up a couple more. Like I said, maybe about a third of the beans, just to give the sauce a nice thickness. It just releases some of the starch into the sauce. And then what we'll do is stir in our andouille that we browned earlier, which is going to add a lot of flavor to this dish. This is where a lot of flavor is going to come from. And that's why I don't go overboard on any other spices. Some people will add sage or thyme or like powdered onion and some other spices to it. And you're more than welcome to do that. Do it to taste. Certainly experiment. but this andouille sausage has a real presence to it. And then we'll just add our fresh parsley to it too. And this is the point where I want you to start making your rice. And the secret to making fluffy rice is add a little bit less water than is recommended on the package. For some reason, a lot of the commercial rices, if you add the full amount of water, they come out soggy. So, if it calls for 2 cups of water, add 1 3/4 cups of water, and it should come out fine. Now, while we're making the rice, what we're going to do over here is bring this back up to a simmer with the cover off and let it thicken up. And it'll take about a half an hour for it to thicken to the right consistency. And then what we'll do is we'll test it. And if you want to right now, you can take a clean spoon and give it a little bit of a taste. But the only problem with doing that at this point is the andouille has not released its flavor yet. So if you want to do that and add some spices to it, go ahead. But what I would do is wait until the end of this process, give it a taste with a clean spoon, and then see if you want to add any other seasonings to it. So we'll bring this back up to a simmer, let it thicken, and I'll be back at that point. In the meantime, I'm making our rice. Okay, so here we are a half an hour later, and you can see the sauce is fast simmering and it thickened. Look how thick that is. Yum. Now, the rice is all ready. The last thing I recommend you do before you put this on rice is take a clean spoon, give it a taste. In movies and in commercials, when the chef goes down the line and he takes a little taste, that's exactly what they're doing. And part of the reason they do that is the ingredients can vary. Sometimes you're going to have an andouille that's much stronger, and some of the spices might vary in quality. So give it a little taste. And decide if it's the way you like it. You might want to add some salt, maybe some of the other seasonings that we've used, a little bit more Cajun spice. You might even want to add some sage or thyme or, some of those earthier herbs if you like. But honestly, this came out perfect to my taste, so I'm ready to try it out. So congratulations, look at what you just did. You just made this delicious Louisiana-style red beans on rice. It's an absolutely fantastic dish. I think you're really going to enjoy this. You can add some salt, some pepper at the table, maybe even a little bit of your favorite hot sauce. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Now, if you do like this recipe, please check out my website, stepbystepchef.com. There you will find a printable version of this recipe, along with printable versions and step-by-step video links for well over 150 different dishes. Well over. You, me, in the kitchen. We're going to make dishes like this. And we'll do it the step-by-step way. The other thing I hope you will check out while you're there is my cookbook, Cooking with the Step-by-Step Chef. And I'm going to update this every November with the latest recipes. This way you don't have to print every recipe from the website to have it at your fingertips. Makes a great gift too. And I think that after you check this out, you're gonna be like, hey, I can cook. I can do this. That's my goal in this entire series, is to convince people that they can cook, mainly because you can. So my name's Larry Richardson. I am your step-by-step chef, and I'll see you in the next episode.